welcome to BQ Runway. Now, what comes top of your mind when I talk about the Indian fashion industry? Well, the one thing that I don't associate the industry with is holiday luxury wear. But that's exactly what Shivan and Narresh are most famous for. Today, I'm in conversation with them for this episode of BQ Runway. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking time out for us today. So, I'm going to start with the most obvious question, one that I'm sure you've answered on numerous occasions already. But, in a country where we're still fairly obsessed with Indian wear, Indian festive wear or bridal wear, when it comes to designer wear, you guys have pioneered luxury holiday wear. You've introduced the concept at a time when a lot of people did not even know what resort wear was, right? Or did not associate swimwear with luxury. So, talk to me about the commercial viability of doing something of this sort. How you started off and how that landscape has changed as we stand today.
Okay. Keeping it strictly commercial viability in mind, I think we have to understand that India has changed drastically over the last 1 decade, at least 10 years for sure, I can tell you that. I think fashion in India always meant wedding clothes. It meant that you save up money to spend all your money for the one day of your life. And this was a very generational thinking of the generation that came before us, which is us as millennials. And it is with that point of view, in India saw fashion the way it saw fashion and consumed fashion. I think with millennials taking over in the last 10 years, things drastically changed in our country because their thinking patterns around spending money were very vastly different from our parents' generation. If I speak as a millennial myself, for us millennials, spending on experiences is more important than spending on products. So if you give me 2 lakh rupees today, I would rather travel with that 2 lakh rupees and go on a great holiday than spend that 2 lakh rupees on a bag or on a shoe and put it on my social media and say that I bought a shoe. It just doesn't make sense, but I'd rather flood my social media with photos of my latest holiday. So this whole thing of putting experiences higher than the products is really the mindscape of the millennials today. That's how they're looking to spend their money. Now, when you look at fashion, that has always revolved around one day of spending in somebody's life. This was a fully redundant concept in the millennial lives. For them, they're like, we don't want to have fun just on one day. We want to have fun every day of our lives. And this spending that was then accumulated for just one day got spent into, I want to celebrate everything with as much fun and as much experience. So for example, I want to spend my 40th birthday. I want to spend my landmark 30th birthday. We want to spend on our anniversaries. We want to spend on our babies' birthdays. So everything became an event. Everything was becoming an experiences. So fashion had to remodel itself to now have brands and now have brand universes that actually fuel this growth. And that's essentially when our growth fuel and strategy.
Yeah. I mean, the other aspect is the very term resort wear. It essentially means that we live in a country that has a resort climate. So, when we started that, yes, it was termed as holiday wear, but to be very honest, resort clothing is nothing but clothing that you wear within the country, within the city also, because our country's climate is resort climate. You go anywhere, we've actually truly what resort wear means is what we wear on an everyday basis. The cottons that we love, the breathable fabrics that we love, we enjoy wearing in the city is resort wear, to be very honest. We really enjoy that lifestyle in general. The word posh comes from India. When the British came and that all those terminologies and everything that we associate with a sort of a jargon, but it's very everyday life for us. That is what resort wear is, everyday life.
I mean, if you look at resort from a Western fashion dictionary point of view, they speak of this category as resort wear because for them, resort is a climate that you go and holiday in because they live in extremely cold countries. But for us, resort is our everyday climate. So essentially, resort wear in India is ready to wear. is nothing but ready to wear. And again, if you look at from a business perspective, this is something that Indian fashion designers are yet to learn. How do you even have a ready-to-wear brand in a country like India? Because we've been so consumed in making wedding brands that to build a brand in India that can be consumed on a regular basis, where your client is not your customer just one day of her life, but actually every month of your life, is a very different dynamics and business numbers. And that's essentially what our business is built on, because our target audience and our customer base is traveling holiday to holiday. They holiday minimum 3 to 4 times in a year. So even when you're on a holiday, you're planning the next holiday. So essentially, that means you're shopping at least 3 to 4 times from the brand, and our repeat customer is very, very high. So we need to always have new prints in the stores, new merchandise plans. The stores, physical, online, both have to be extremely fresh. The merchandising range and planning has to be wide. And all prints have to be equally discerning and have to be equally good, because when you're on a holiday, you want to look unique but great. But if you're traveling with your sister or your husband or your family, they also want to wear different prints and equally look great. So the print palette then has to be quite diverse and nice.
So when you started off, did you think you were catering to a very niche segment, especially because then more than ever, you were pretty much all alone in what you were attempting to do?
Yeah. Yes, we were told many number of times this is a very niche segment and it's a very niche audience.
Were you told that it won't work?
Yes, we were told that swimsuits in India, how are you going to sell that? Who's going to buy it? How are you going to market it? How would you even sell it? Because you take a swimsuit to multi-designer brand outlets and you're going to have 10 lehengas, 2 swimsuits, 10 saris. Who's going to walk in? And then the education of the customer, Indian women have not traditionally bought swimsuits very openly. So how are you going to get the sizing right? Just the gamut of questions that the range of problems that you can possibly look for, they were all there, But then you also have to understand that if you truly want to build a lifestyle luxury brand in any country in the world, you always start with a niche. You always master this one category that nobody else can. And that's how you start building a brand around it. If you look at some of the biggest iconic brands, you look at Chanel, you look at Burberry, they all started at the heart with a niche product category. Burberry was always known for trench coats first. Chanel was always known for the little black dress first. So you have to understand that all these brands were built around one product niche category that became the mindshare of the customer. And that is exactly what we've done with swimwear. So swimwear might not be a majority of my sales today. It might be, let's say, just 20% or under 20% of my sales. But the mindshare of the customer is so high with that category that with that, all the other peripheral categories that we continue to build is what's creating the lifestyle of the brand. And it continuously stretches the width and the depth of the brand. And that's essentially how you build a luxury brand in India.
Were there cultural barriers as well? For instance, I can think of quite a few women in my family who might not be so comfortable wearing a sexy cutout swimsuit on a holiday that she might have gone to with her family or even friends for that matter. So tell us a little bit about what you did about that. Did you have to do something about that?
I mean, honestly, it was a lot of education that we imparted to retailers, to clients, and we've been doing it over and over again for now more than a decade. Whoever comes, we tell them, please wear a high cut swimsuit. It makes your leg longer. Please wear a cutout. It makes your waist look simple. So, whatever we're dreaming and imagining, that projection wasn't easy, to be very honest. It required a lot of education from our side to the client that, this is what the right size is for you. Where a swimsuit is always bought a size smaller, because once you go in water, the water tends to expand, the fabric tends to expand. So always buy a slightly snug size. So many of these things, style tips to the right cut, to the right fit, all of that was, in fact, it's an ongoing journey. We are doing that. We are pushing the boundary. But at the same time, who are we? Like, as Indians, we've had a huge Bauli culture, the step wells where women used to bathe openly and freely. But with time, with us being ruled by Mughals to British, we've been very, very caged in our mindset and thought, but we were a very free society. Look, Kama
Ghat
Sutra,
cultures,
the
the Ghat
Kama
cultures.
Sutras, the Ghat culture, everything
I mean,
originated here.
if you truly look at in the essence of body positivity, our culture was the most ahead. Even if you look at the way you look at our old sculptures, we've always celebrated a voluptuous body, right? We've always celebrated the belly. If you look at how the lungis were tied for men and women, they were always around the belly. The jewelry was always around the belly. So look at the amount of beautification and the amount of aesthetic that we've drawn on a belly that's actually voluptuous and not a belly with abs, for example. So we, as just culturally speaking, as a society, we've gone from all of that to this society that just always is seen in layers and layers of clothing. So as designers, there was a big cultural role that we also had to play, is to very with a lot of ease and joy, take out these layers and layers of veils that have been on our women and actually make them free, feel good about themselves. I think we also started at the right place at the right time. We started in 2010. This is also the boom of social media. Literally, travel became the biggest industry that everybody was spending on. And the first industry that benefited the most out of this was fashion industry, because apart from hospitality industry, the only thing that you always consumed to travel was clothing. And there was no brand in India that was actually answering this, and we happened to just debut the brand right there and then. So with almost doing nothing in terms of marketing, literally we were on every newspaper, every channel, every magazine was publishing summer stories, and it happens to do so even now. So I think there's so many factors that went into making Shivan Narresh such a household name success and a phenomena in the country, and that we're very thankful that so many things came into
when we
place.
started, the idea was to do something that nobody can do or nobody has done. We somehow our college story, like when we started studying design together, we started taking part in competitions that were very, very close to this category. We took part in lingerie awards, swimwear awards, and we somehow started winning those awards. And that gave us a lot of confidence that, this category is something that is dear to us, that when we draw, there's a flair on the sketch, you can see that there's uniqueness. So we thought that, okay, let's do this. Let's bring something that nobody's done. And that's how we became now, from first swimwear brand, now we are also the first luxury ski wear brand in the country. So the building of the category, the building of the universe is just expanding more and more and more with every year passing by.
So, you've mentioned the ski wear brand, for instance, right? Were these unconventional choices, conscious choices? Was it the fact that, the fact that nobody else is doing it and we might be able to build a niche, a name for ourselves there? Were those some of the reasons?
Well, it was very fully calculated. If you look at our logo, which we have 5 iconograms, which are the 5 animals, which are our symbol, and those were adopted right from the time that we started, 2010. 5 animals. The first one is a snail. It represents beach. The second one is a dolphin. It represents cruise. The third one is an elephant. It represents safari. The fourth one is peacock. It represents resort. And the last one is reindeer. It represents ski. So the whole idea was that no matter where you holiday, land, water, sea, or mountains, you only wear Shivan Narresh. We knew we always wanted to be a holistic luxury lifestyle brand, a holiday lifestyle brand, and that we will eventually encompass all possible ways of holidaying on this earth. We started with swim, we moved to resort, we moved to safari, we moved to cruise, and finally in 2020, after completing a decade of fashion in India, we became the first brand to do ski wear, luxury ski wear in India, because it was a brand promise. And now
the logo was designed 10 years before the launch of ski wear. So we knew exactly what we were doing every year and year on. And that's how we started the ski wear line. So we have jackets that can sustain minus 40 degrees Celsius. Doing all those technical garments also took us time to reach there. And that's why it took a decade for us to release ski wear in 2020.
But if you simplify all these complexities of design and strategy of business, it comes down to something very simple, that you think of summer and you think of winter and you think of ready to wear when it comes to fashion. And we just want the customers to only think about us, and they should be obsessed with us. And that's essentially what we want. So you think of summer and you think of, I'm traveling tomorrow, Shivan Narresh. You think of winters, I'm going on a winter holiday, I'm traveling, Shivan Narresh. And that's essentially what we want to do. So I think that's essentially how brands should be. They have to be self-obsessed. They have to be self-absorbed, because if you do not create the desire, you cannot create sales, and you cannot create a pull situation for the customer.
Do you think, at least initially, because of this, there were challenges to scalability maybe?
Yes, there were huge challenges.
Of course. I mean, it's easier to do something that already exists and fight that competition, I feel sometimes. But we always chose to march on our own drum and beat and like create our own path and laying our own foundation. Trust me, it definitely was difficult, but then the fruits that we enjoy, it's difficult for anybody else to be in that shoes easily.
It's probably the reason that even after being 13 years into business today, we don't have any competition in the market, and we command that kind of a positioning and niche that even though it's an open market and anybody can come and sell, build another swimsuit brand here, but we've not been able to see that, is because it's that complex. It is very difficult to do something like this. And because we've been able to master this, can we command this kind of a positioning in the market? And that's only because we took a road that was less taken.
Tell me about the importance of having a diversified portfolio. So, of course, along with ski wear, swimwear, you've recently also ventured into couture or home furnishings for that matter. So, tell me a little bit more about that.
I think having a diverse portfolio is pretty much like having a diverse investment fund. You know, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And the best times to do something like this is when you're actually flourishing, because then you don't have the reason to go into other categories, but you do it purely out of passion. And when you do things out of passion, again, you're creating desire, and you will find a new target audience and customer base for those product categories. This is something that we saw across in our journey of the last 13 years. We kept on building, like I mentioned, from swim we went to resort, from resort we went to safari, from safari we went into menswear. Menswear today is massive. It's almost fighting 50-50 with women's wear for us, because it's such an uncaptured category.
Absolutely.
So all of these became extensions just out of passion, that, you know, let's add this newer category, and it really helped the brand survive. And like you said, the most recent has been couture. You know, we started doing couture in COVID. And that was the time there were no weddings, and we said this is the perfect time to launch a new product, because the market is so silent, you know. And when the market is silent and all the competition noise is absolutely zero, that's the perfect time to launch something that nobody's talking about. So our first couture show, Couture Series 1, was a digital show, and it was recorded and it was streamed live on social media, and it was a massive hit. Because we fully changed the shapes of Indian couture. You know, we worked with a balloon lehenga, nobody had ever done it. We worked with sheer lehengas, nobody does sheer lehengas. We had absolutely ivory brides, because people are too scared to touch ivory colors for bridal. So we started working on hand knitted blouses. So silk knitted blouses, nobody does. Knitting in our couture industry is absolutely not touched upon.
World over, in fact. Very few people.
And we have such a huge knitwear industry that is fully ignored by the couturiers in India. So again, idea was to take big strides there and really evolve the market. And it's been a huge success. I mean, we just did our Couture Series 3, which was day before on the weekend. And I cannot tell you the scale of success that it's reached out to people. It's fantastic. So I think because we're the youngest nation in this world, and more than anywhere in the world, the hunger for newness is in our country. So if the moment you serve something new and fresh, India is so ready to grab and absorb it that it makes you instantly your product and the brand successful.
You know, there's a lot happening in the Indian fashion landscape at this point. A lot of Indian fashion brands are now talking about going global, for instance. Also, we've seen what's been happening with Reliance Brands Limited and Aditya Birla. So what are you making of all of these changes that's happening? And tell me a little bit more about what you want your future growth trajectory to be like.
I feel like with these investments coming in, we were always told that we are 100 years behind from the West in terms of fashion. And yes, the investments that have happened back in the day into the brands like Chanel, Dior, Louis Vuitton, all of them have happened way far behind than where we are. So I'm very happy that it's actually getting established. That means the fashion scene in India is getting formalized. And that's exactly what is happening. Two people coming in, there will be more people. They are all wanting to establish themselves into the world and proclaim their world domination. So I feel like this is a great time to be here. So that's one. What was the second question? There was another one.
So I want to ask you about your future growth plans.
Future growth plan is opening more and more stores. We are also we are in talks with some of our international consultants. They're helping us find us bases outside, but we're trying to see how can we do it differently, because what we did in India was never done before, but doing the same maybe in the West might not cut it. So we have to find a new way to enter the West, and that's what we're strategizing with our consultants who are consulting us, telling us what exactly we should do. And they're telling us that our lifestyle approach towards things, the personalities behind need to go out versus just the product. It needs to be a whole package. They want everything. Our consultants say that bring everything from your home to wallpaper. You need to just go as a big brand there. So this is what is in the back of homework that we're doing at the minute.
All right, let's get Siddharth on for some business inside conversations.
He's the man behind all the numbers. Yeah.
Great. So, Siddharth, we've been talking about changing consumer preferences, and today seems to be the best time, to be in this kind of space that you guys specialize in. So, tell me a little bit about sales growth and volume, and what's it all looking like at this point?
So, I think at this point we ourselves as a brand are at a very exciting junction. I would say in the last 3 years, the kind of growth that we have seen, it's been quite phenomenal. When we, pre-pandemic, we were sitting at one store in Delhi. Within the last 2 years, we've opened 4 more. And that is through a very turbulent time in the entire luxury segment, right? From the retail footprint that we have become 6 times of that. And we plan to add at least 50% more in the coming 2 years. So we have seen that in the last 3 years, the kind of growth that has been fueled is largely credited to the previous 8-10 years of consistently hitting the market. With the right product at the right time, taking all our learnings. I think because we have been working with such a unique category, right? I think when we started off, there was no case study to refer to or anything. We have kind of set our own rules of retail and marketing and all of that, all our retail strategies, everything has been very, very unique. So all those learnings over the last, I would say 4-5 years have started showing a very consistent growth, which is growing every year. I think right now we're growing about 70 to 80% year on year, and we see this number going up even more. If I get into categories, in the last 3 years, the kind of growth menswear has given to us, I think from the figures that we have in the last 2 years, menswear has more than doubled itself year on year. For us, menswear was almost like a guilty category. We thought women will just, when they're shopping for lakhs and lakhs, they might just pick up one polo for their husband or something. But right now, we have men shopping, and as of today, the menswear business is giving such serious competition to the women's wear business because that's how much it has grown. And we have seen that, these factors of just expanding the brand into different categories is fueling a very different level of growth. Okay. So for example, we have menswear. Then we ventured into home during pandemic only, from being a mere 1 or 2% of the business, right? Now it's going to double digits. And it's literally just been a year of us very actively promoting it, venturing into different categories. And what it has done for us as a brand is it has exposed the brand to very different demographics, you know. While obviously the core customer also wants to indulge in all the universe that the brand has created, but you know, through categories of home, we got into stationery, you know, there was pets wear, you know, everywhere, you know, we started hitting a very different customer, and that just grew the base. So for us, that has been very exciting that, you know, just by creating this universe for the brand, right, it was no longer just contained into fashion, but it turned into a massive lifestyle and a design universe that people all wanted to consume. So that is what I feel has fueled a lot of growth for us in the last, you know, 4 to 5 years.
What are your best doing segments?
Okay, the best doing segments, if I give you a good idea, like for us, swim and resort, women's swim and resort is almost 50% of the business, right? Followed by menswear. You know, when we started menswear, it was just under 5% in that first year that we started.
And how long back was this?
So we started menswear in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, and now the business has become almost 7-8 times of what it is, and right now menswear is sitting at about 35-40%, you know, so that's how much menswear has grown. And the beauty about menswear is it is simple, you know. Men are very, you know, easy shoppers, you know, they like a certain style, they'll go for, you know, they're very loyal, you know. They'll, for example, you see these shirts here and these polos here, you know, a man comes in, he's you know, I like this one, show me more prints, show me more colors, because that's what the men's economy is like. So for us, even in scalability, menswear has shown the most amount of potential. You know, now we have previously what used to be a section in our showrooms, now we have different showrooms for men altogether. Our Delhi showroom has a different showroom dedicated to men's. Our Hyderabad has a different store on a different level, you know, which is completely for men's. So, and even in the showroom you're sitting right now, a different floor is given to men's. So that's how much the category has grown for us.
Okay, so you know, you were talking a little bit about retail strategy. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, typically for Indian luxury fashion, most of the sales appears to be offline in the store. And we don't, whereas designers, we don't often find that range available in a store online. What's it like for you guys? Tell me a little bit more about the mix of offline and online.
Very interesting question, actually. So we started our online business in 2013. It's been 10 years. Actually, at that point, when our e-commerce was launched, I remember we launched it in Bombay only. We did a massive event and everything. And that time, people weren't even talking about, you know, designers having their own websites. We started, you know, with that, you know, then obviously the entire idea of performance marketing, all of these things came up, and we started actively investing in that around 2017. But the major growth of online was obviously during pandemic, because people had no access to the stores, and the kind of numbers we have seen online, you know, for a product like ours, where an average basket value is almost 35,000-40,000, people wanting to just spend online on that, you know, that very quickly grew the database across the country. In fact, the kind of return of ad spend I've had in 2020 is nowhere comparable to what we get right now, because obviously that was a different time. It was, I would say, exceptional times. But right now, we follow a concept called O2O, which is online to offline. You know, people see the entire collection online. You know, end of the day, if you see our product, the pricing and the kind of basket size you're looking at, some people, I would say, you know, some people are okay spending that much online, but most people want to come, touch, feel, understand, you know, the product more in detail, especially because the biggest selling category online for us is swimwear, you know. So women want to come and test it out. They want to see how it fits like and everything. So we see that it's become an ecosystem of sorts. You know, we spend online, you know, it excites the customer, and eventually they come to the showrooms. So over the years, you know, I'll tell you what, there was a time right after the pandemic, you know, the ad spends and the kind of revenue which was coming, you know, it kind of changed that entire dynamic. But what we saw was that the offline sales had literally just shot up, and on products that we were advertising. So it gave us a very clear idea that for a category like ours and a price point like ours, it is an O2O model only we'll always follow. So we keep investing on that more and more, and people actually come to the showrooms and they try the clothes. That's why we have kept a very coherent universe in our online and offline stores. So it just works really well. And the next, after that, what we introduced, like, categories like home, within home we have so many different categories like candles, stationery, table linen, wallpapers. All of these have shown a lot of growth completely online, because these are very accessible product categories. You don't have to think too much. It's a candle I like, I want to try the candle, I can easily order it. Even items like jewelry, in fact, jewelry sees a lot of interest for us from the US and European markets. So it's been a very it's literally we learn every day from online.
So, one closing question, and that's for both of you. We've spoken extensively about how quickly the fashion landscape back home is changing. What are some of the challenges? So just for instance, just the way marketing has changed, the rise of influencers, and how they are driving growth. So tell us a little bit about what you think are challenges at this point.
I think these are more like opportunities right now because, to be very honest, if the fashion landscape doesn't evolve, we'll all stagnate one day. The rise of influencers has been I would say, it's been a change which was waiting to happen for the last 4 or 5 years. I think the first time we started, the word influencer came. Before that, it was called bloggers, right? It was about 2017, right? It slowly picked up. People started looking at these people who were doing really interesting fashion content, which was accessible, which was relatable, So it has obviously shot up a lot, and I feel it has a huge potential because, the influencers speak to very targeted groups. When we work with influencers, we actually understand what kind of content they work with, who could they be targeting. So we actually have different pools of influencers for all different categories. It's not like one influencer fits all. We understand that who specializes in what, and we work with that. So it just helps put together, put out products very well. Like, for example, today I want to promote our stationery, right? It's not like you can just put on a celebrity holding a diary, right? You can't do that. But there are people who, like, in this digital world, the audience is following only for that kind of content. So it works really well in that case, It's just very, very easy and, very consistent also.
No, he's right.
All right. Thank you so much for this conversation. It was most insightful.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned to BQ Prime.